What if I told you that the life you are building right now, the career you are pursuing, the goals you are chasing, the person you are trying to become, none of it is actually yours? What if every major decision you have made, every path you have chosen, every dream you are working toward was not chosen by you at all, but handed to you by parents who wanted you to fulfill their unlived dreams, by a culture that sold you a one-size-fits-all definition of success, by peers whose approval you were desperate to maintain, and by a younger version of yourself who did not know any better? What if you have spent years, maybe decades, building a beautiful life that belongs to someone else? You wake up every day and go through the motions. You work toward goals that looked impressive when you set them. You pursue achievements that others celebrate. You make choices that seem responsible and mature. But beneath the surface, beneath the performance of having it all together, you feel a gnawing sense of wrongness, a quiet voice asking, "Is this really what I want? Is this really my life? Is this really my dream?" And every time that voice gets loud enough to hear clearly, you silence it with busyness, with rationalization, with reminders of how much you have already invested in this path, with fear of what it would mean to admit you have been living someone else's dream all along. You are not alone in this. Millions of people are living lives that were designed by committee, approved by everyone except the person actually living them, pursuing dreams that sounded good in theory but feel hollow in practice. They are successful by every external measure and empty by every internal one. They achieved everything they were supposed to achieve and still feel like they failed at something fundamental. They followed the map perfectly and ended up somewhere they never wanted to be, because the map was never theirs. The dream was never theirs. The life was never theirs. Here is the truth that will either devastate you or liberate you. You were not born to live someone else's dream. You were born with your own desires, your own interests, your own unique way of being in the world. But somewhere along the way, those got buried beneath layers of expectation, conditioning, and performance. You learned to want what you were supposed to want, to dream what you were supposed to dream, to become who you were supposed to become. And in the process, you lost contact with what you actually want, what you genuinely dream, who you authentically are. By the time you finish this audiobook, you will understand how you ended up living someone else's dream, whose dreams you are actually living, what the cost has been, and most importantly, how to reclaim your life and start living your own dream before you run out of time. This is not about being ungrateful or throwing away everything you have built. This is about recognizing that building the wrong thing beautifully is still building the wrong thing. This is about having the courage to admit that the life you are living is not the life you want. And this is about doing something about it while you still can. Your authentic dream is waiting. It has been waiting your entire life, buried beneath everyone else's expectations. The question is whether you have the courage to excavate it, to own it, and to live it, even if doing so disappoints everyone who wanted you to keep living theirs. Chapter 1: The Invisible Inheritance of Others' Dreams. Before you can reclaim your own dream, you must understand how you came to be living someone else's. This is not usually a conscious process. No one sits you down and explicitly tells you to abandon your dreams and live theirs instead. It happens through 1,000 small moments, implicit messages, an unconscious transmission of unfulfilled desires from one generation to the next. The most powerful source of inherited dreams is your parents. Every parent has dreams they did not fulfill, potential they did not realize, paths they did not take. These unlived lives create a kind of psychic pressure. Parents want their children to have what they did not have, to achieve what they did not achieve, to avoid their mistakes and fulfill their unrealized potential. This desire is usually well-intentioned. They want better for you, but better according to their definition, based on their regrets, shaped by their unfulfilled dreams. Maybe your father always wished he had been a doctor, but circumstances prevented it. So he pushed you toward medicine, not because you showed interest, but because medicine represented his unlived dream. Maybe your mother sacrificed her career for family and always regretted it. So she pushed you toward professional achievement, not because you wanted it, but because career success represented her unlived life. You became the vehicle for their vicarious fulfillment. The dream was always theirs. You were just the one living it out. This inheritance is particularly insidious because it is wrapped in love and concern. They are not trying to harm you. They genuinely believe they are guiding you toward a good life. But their vision of a good life is shaped by their wounds, their regrets, their era, their values. It might have nothing to do with who you actually are or what would actually fulfill you. Yet you internalize their dream as your own because distinguishing between your authentic desires and their projected ones requires a level of self-awareness most people do not develop until much later, if ever. Cultural dreams are another powerful source of inheritance. Every culture has a script for what a successful, respectable, good life looks like. In some cultures, it is professional achievement and financial success. In others, it is family and tradition. In others, it is education and intellectual accomplishment. These cultural scripts are transmitted through media, education, social pressure, and the examples of those around you. They create a template that most people follow without question because deviation seems risky, foolish, or selfish. You absorb these cultural scripts before you could think critically about them. By the time you were old enough to question whether the cultural dream actually fits you, you were already deep into living it. You had made choices based on it, built identity around it, invested years pursuing it. The sunk cost made changing direction feel impossible, even when you started suspecting the direction was wrong. Peer influence also shapes which dreams you pursue. Humans are social creatures wired to conform to the group. When everyone around you is pursuing similar goals, chasing similar markers of success, defining life in similar ways, going a different direction requires enormous courage and tolerance for social pressure. Most people lack this courage and tolerance, so they adopt the dreams of their peer group to maintain belonging. The dream is not theirs, but it is shared, which makes it feel safer and more valid than the authentic but lonely path of pursuing something genuinely yours. Educational systems funnel everyone toward narrow definitions of success. From early childhood, you are measured, ranked, and sorted based on specific competencies that the system values. Academic performance, standardized test scores, college acceptance, prestigious careers. The entire structure is designed to move you toward a particular kind of life, regardless of whether that life actually fits your unique strengths, interests, and nature. You learn to value what the system values because the system rewards that and punishes everything else. By the time you emerge from this system, you have been so thoroughly conditioned to pursue the approved dream that you might not even remember having different desires. The creativity you had as a child, the interests that got dismissed as impractical, the paths that were never even presented as options, these got buried so completely that you forgot they existed. You became the person the system needed you to be rather than the person you actually were. Social media has intensified the pressure to live others' dreams by providing constant exposure to curated versions of everyone else's supposedly successful lives. You see what appears to be working for others and feel pressure to want the same things. Their dream looks good in a photo, so you adopt it without asking whether it would actually feel good to live. You chase lifestyles that look impressive rather than lives that would genuinely fulfill you. The performance replaces the authentic. The image replaces the experience. Romantic partners and spouses also influence which dreams you pursue. Maybe your partner has a vision for the life they want, and you adjusted your dreams to fit theirs. Maybe they have ambitions that require your support, so your dreams took a back seat. Maybe their values differ from yours, but you adopted theirs to maintain harmony. Over years, you might have completely molded your dreams to accommodate theirs, forgetting you had different dreams to begin with. The inheritance of others' dreams is so normalized that most people do not even recognize it is happening. They genuinely believe the dreams they are pursuing are their own. They have wanted these things for as long as they can remember, not realizing they can remember wanting them because they were taught to want them before they developed the capacity to want autonomously. The dream feels like theirs because they have lived with it so long, but it was never theirs. It was always borrowed, inherited, imposed. And borrowed dreams, no matter how successfully you achieve them, never satisfy like authentic dreams do. Because achieving someone else's dream does not fulfill your soul. It just proves you are good at following directions. Chapter 2. The signs you are living the wrong dream. Most people living someone else's dream do not realize it immediately. The recognition usually comes gradually through accumulating signs that something is fundamentally wrong, despite everything appearing right on the surface. Understanding these signs helps you identify whether the life you are building is actually yours or someone else's. The first sign is achievement without fulfillment. You reach the goals you set, hit the milestones you were aiming for, achieve the success you were pursuing, and instead of the promised satisfaction, you feel empty, confused, disappointed. You think maybe the next achievement will deliver what this one did not. So you keep climbing, achieving, accumulating, but the fulfillment never comes because you are achieving someone else's goals. External success in the wrong direction creates internal emptiness. The second sign is chronic comparison and competition. When you are pursuing your authentic dream, you are relatively unconcerned with what others are doing because your path is uniquely yours. But when you are pursuing an inherited dream, you are constantly comparing yourself to others on similar paths. Are you ahead or behind? Winning or losing? More successful or less successful? This comparison is exhausting and never satisfying because the dream is external to begin with. You are measuring yourself against arbitrary standards rather than internal alignment. The third sign is the need for external validation. You require constant approval and recognition to feel okay about your choices. You need others to affirm that you are on the right path, making good decisions, becoming successful. This need reveals that the dream is not internally validated. It is externally sourced. If it were your authentic dream, you would not need others' approval to feel good about it. The fact that their opinion matters so much reveals the dream is actually theirs, not yours. The fourth sign is exhaustion that rest does not fix. You are tired all the time, not just physically tired, but soul tired. You sleep, but do not feel restored. You take vacations, but return just as exhausted. This exhaustion comes from living out of alignment with your authentic self. You are performing constantly, maintaining a version of yourself that pursues dreams that are not yours. This performance requires enormous energy. The exhaustion is your system telling you that you are spending your life energy on the wrong things. The fifth sign is resentment toward the life you built. You feel angry at the career you worked hard to achieve, bitter about the relationship that looked perfect on paper, resentful of the life that everyone says you should be grateful for. This resentment is confusing because you chose all of this. But did you? Or did you choose what you were supposed to choose, what everyone expected you to choose, what seemed like the right choice according to everyone else's criteria? The resentment is not ingratitude. It is your authentic self protesting against the life you forced it into. The sixth sign is fantasizing about completely different lives. You daydream about radically different career paths, different locations, different lifestyles. These fantasies are not idle imagination. They are your authentic desires trying to surface, your actual dreams attempting to break through the overlay of inherited ones. When your fantasy life looks nothing like your actual life, that gap is information. It reveals the distance between who you are pretending to be and who you actually want to be. The seventh sign is waiting for your life to start. You have this persistent feeling that your real life will begin later, after you finish school, after you get the promotion, after you pay off debt, after the kids are grown, after retirement. You are perpetually preparing to live rather than actually living, because the life you are living is not the life you want. So you defer actually inhabiting your experience, constantly hoping the future will bring what the present does not. But the future never comes, because you keep moving the goalposts, always deferring the real life that never arrives. The eighth sign is feeling like an imposter. Despite your achievements, you feel like a fraud, like someone is going to discover you do not actually belong in this career, this life, this role. This imposter syndrome is actually accurate. You are an imposter, not in your competence, which is usually real, but in your belonging. You do not belong in this life because it is not your life. You are performing someone else's dream convincingly enough that you fooled everyone, including sometimes yourself. But deep down, you know you are pretending. The imposter feeling is your authentic self recognizing the inauthenticity of the life you are living. The ninth sign is inability to articulate why you want what you are pursuing. When someone asks why you chose this career, why you are pursuing these goals, why you want this life, you struggle to give authentic answers. You resort to, "It seemed like a good idea," or "This is what you do," or "Everyone said this was the path." You cannot articulate intrinsic motivation because there is not any. You are pursuing these things because you were supposed to, not because you genuinely want them. The lack of clear internal why reveals the lack of internal origin for the dream. The 10th sign is fear of stopping or changing direction. The thought of leaving your career, changing your life direction, or pursuing different dreams creates panic. Not because you love what you are doing, but because you have invested so much. The sunk cost feels enormous. Admitting you are on the wrong path means admitting years or decades were wasted. This fear keeps you trapped, continuing to invest in the wrong direction because you already invested so much. But this is the sunk cost fallacy. Past investment does not justify future investment in something that does not serve you. Yet the fear of admitting you were wrong, that you wasted time, that you built the wrong life, keeps you building it higher even as it feels worse. If you recognize multiple signs in your own life, you are likely living someone else's dream. This recognition is painful, but essential. You cannot change what you do not acknowledge. The signs are your authentic self, trying to get your attention, trying to wake you up to the reality that you are off track, that you are building a beautiful life that does not actually belong to you. Ignoring these signs leads to decades more of the same emptiness. Heeding them leads to the possibility of reclaiming your actual dream before you run out of time. Chapter 3. Whose dream are you actually living? Once you recognize you might be living someone else's dream, the next step is identifying whose dream it actually is. This clarity helps you understand what needs to change and why changing feels so difficult. The dreams you are living usually come from several sources simultaneously, creating a complex mix that makes untangling your authentic desires from imposed ones challenging but essential. Your parents' dreams are usually the deepest layer. Examine your major life choices through the lens of what your parents wanted for you versus what you wanted for yourself. Did you go into the family business because you genuinely loved it or because it was expected? Did you pursue a stable career because security genuinely matters to you or because your parents who experienced financial instability pushed you toward it? Did you prioritize family and children because you wanted them or because your parents expected grandchildren and could not imagine a life without that traditional path? Many people discover that their entire life has been an attempt to make their parents proud, to avoid disappointing them, to fulfill the potential they saw in you, to achieve what they did not achieve. You became a doctor, lawyer, engineer, teacher, not because those professions called to you, but because they called to your parents' vision of success. You married the person who impressed them rather than the person who truly connected with you. You bought the house in the neighborhood they approved of rather than the place that felt like home to you. Your life has been a performance for their approval, and you are exhausted from a show that never ends. Understanding this does not mean blaming your parents. Most parents are doing their best with their own unhealed wounds and limited understanding. They want good things for you. They just define good according to their experience, not yours. But understanding their influence helps you separate their dreams from yours, so you can finally discover what you actually want beneath what they wanted for you. Cultural dreams form another major layer. What does success look like in your culture? What life paths are celebrated and which are dismissed? What matters most according to the cultural values you were raised with? Many people discover they have been pursuing the culturally approved dream without ever asking if it actually fits them. Maybe your culture values academic achievement above all else, so you pursued education long past the point it fulfilled you, because that is what successful people do in your culture. Maybe your culture values family and tradition, so you sacrificed personal ambitions to maintain family cohesion, because individual dreams matter less than collective harmony. Maybe your culture values wealth and status, so you chose careers based on earning potential rather than genuine interest, because money is how your culture measures worth. Recognizing the cultural dream you have been living helps you see it as one option among many rather than the only option. It gives you permission to consider whether that dream actually aligns with your authentic values, or if you have been conforming to maintain cultural belonging. Your peer group's dreams also shape your choices. What are your friends pursuing? What do they value? What do they celebrate? Humans are powerfully influenced by the people they spend time with. If everyone in your circle is climbing corporate ladders, you probably are too, even if you actually value creativity over status. If everyone is focused on family, you might have suppressed ambitions that do not fit that narrative. If everyone is pursuing adventure and freedom, you might feel pressure to want that, even if you actually crave stability. Looking at whose approval you have been seeking reveals whose dreams you have been living. Your younger self's dreams, formed before you fully understood the world, also influence current choices. Maybe you decided in high school what you wanted to be and have been pursuing that without ever revisiting whether adult you still wants that. Maybe you made commitments based on who you were at 20 and are now living out those commitments at 40, even though you are a completely different person. Maybe you set goals during a particular phase of life and never updated them as you grew and changed. You are living a dream that belonged to a past version of yourself who no longer exists. Society's generic dream of success also plays a role. What does the media portray as the good life? What do advertisements promise will make you happy? What does the dominant narrative say you should want? Many people are pursuing the Instagram version of life, the rom-com version of relationships, the magazine version of success, without ever asking if those curated fantasies would actually feel good to live. You are chasing a dream that was manufactured to sell products and maintain social order, not to fulfill your unique soul. Sometimes you are living the dream of who you wish you were, rather than who you actually are. Maybe you want to be the kind of person who loves high-powered careers, even though you actually crave simplicity. Maybe you want to be adventurous, even though you genuinely prefer routine. Maybe you want to be extroverted, even though you are deeply introverted. You are trying to live according to your ideal self-image rather than your actual self. This creates constant internal conflict because you are forcing yourself to want things that do not fit your nature. Identifying whose dreams you are living requires honest inventory. Go through your major life choices, your career, your relationships, your location, your goals, your daily activities. For each one, ask whose idea was this originally? Who benefits from this choice? Who would be disappointed if I change this? Whose approval am I seeking through this? If I were not afraid of anyone's opinion, would I still choose this? This inventory reveals the sources of your current life, showing you which pieces are actually yours and which pieces were imported from others. The goal is not to blame these sources or to reject everything you have built. The goal is to see clearly what is yours and what is not, so you can make conscious choices going forward. Some of what you have been living might align with your authentic dreams. That is great. Keep it. But much of it probably does not. And continuing to pursue dreams that are not yours is a waste of your one precious life. Clarity about whose dreams you have been living is the first step toward reclaiming your own. Chapter 4. The cost of living the wrong dream. Living someone else's dream comes with enormous costs that accumulate over time. Understanding these costs creates urgency around reclaiming your own dream before you spend your entire life building something that was never yours. The first cost is the loss of your authentic self. When you spend years pursuing goals that do not align with who you are, performing a version of yourself that fits others' expectations, suppressing your genuine interests and desires, you lose contact with your authentic self. You become so good at being who you are supposed to be that you forget who you actually are. Your authentic self atrophies from disuse. It gets buried so deep that you might not even remember it exists. You look in the mirror and do not recognize the person looking back, because that person is a construction, not a truth. This loss of self creates a profound existential emptiness. You have everything you were told would make you happy, but you feel hollow because the everything belongs to someone else's definition of happiness. You succeeded at being them, but failed at being you. And no external achievement can fill the void created by self-abandonment. The emptiness is not because you did not achieve enough. It is because you achieved the wrong things for the wrong reasons. The second cost is wasted time. You cannot get back the years you spent building someone else's dream, the decade you spent in a career that never fit, the years you spent in a relationship that was not right, the time you invested pursuing goals that did not resonate with your authentic desires. This time is gone. Every day you continue on the wrong path is another day you do not get back. The opportunity cost is your actual life, the one you could have been living if you had been brave enough to pursue your own dream instead of theirs. The third cost is chronic resentment. When you live according to others' expectations, you accumulate resentment. Resentment toward them for imposing their dreams on you, though you allowed it. Resentment toward yourself for not having the courage to pursue your own path. Resentment toward the life you built because it looks right but feels wrong. This resentment poisons everything. It leaks into your relationships, your work, your internal experience. You become bitter about a life you worked hard to create, which is a special kind of hell. The fourth cost is unrealized potential. You have gifts, talents, interests that are uniquely yours. These remain undeveloped because you have been investing your energy in developing someone else's vision. The person you could have become remains unrealized. The contribution you could have made remains unmade. The authentic expression that was yours alone remains unexpressed. The world loses what only you could have offered because you were too busy offering what others expected. The fifth cost is relationships based on false pretenses. When you present a performed version of yourself, people fall in love with, befriend, or partner with that performance, not with your authentic self. These relationships feel hollow because there is no real intimacy when one person is always performing. You are lonely despite being surrounded by people because no one actually knows you. They know the version of you that pursues the approved dream. The real you remains isolated, unseen, unknown. The sixth cost is health deterioration. Living out of alignment with your authentic self creates chronic stress. Your body keeps the score of every day spent betraying yourself, every choice made from fear rather than desire, every moment performing rather than being. This stress manifests as physical illness, mental health problems, exhaustion, premature aging. You are literally making yourself sick by living the wrong life. Your body is trying to tell you through symptoms that something is fundamentally wrong, but you medicate the symptoms rather than addressing the root cause. The seventh cost is the regret that will haunt your final days. Research on end-of-life regrets consistently shows that people most regret not having the courage to live their own life rather than the life others expected of them. They regret working too much in careers that did not fulfill them. They regret not expressing their authentic feelings and desires. They regret living according to what others thought rather than what they wanted. This regret is profound and cannot be fixed when you realize it at the end. The time to address it is now, while you still have time to change course. The eighth cost is the message you send to the next generation. If you have children or influence younger people, they are learning from your example. If you live someone else's dream, you teach them to do the same. You perpetuate the cycle of self-abandonment and living for others' approval. But if you have the courage to pursue your authentic dream, you teach them that it is possible, that it matters, that their authentic desires are valid. You break the generational pattern of living others' dreams. The ninth cost is missing your one life. You get one life, not a practice life followed by the real one, not multiple attempts. 1. Every day spent living someone else's dream is a day subtracted from the only life you get. You do not get to come back and do it differently. This is it. The cost of living the wrong dream is your actual life, the one you will never get to live if you keep living theirs. Understanding these costs is not meant to create shame or despair. It is meant to create urgency. The costs are real, and they accumulate daily. But you still have time to change direction. You still have time to reclaim your dream. You still have time to start living your actual life rather than the one they designed for you. The costs you have already paid are sunk. They are in the past. But the costs you pay going forward are your choice. You can choose to continue paying the price of living the wrong dream, or you can choose the different price of pursuing the right one. Both cost something. One costs your authentic life. The other costs others' approval. Choose wisely. Chapter 5. The fear that keeps you trapped. Even when you recognize you are living someone else's dream and understand the cost, changing course feels terrifying. Understanding the specific fears that keep you trapped helps you address them rather than being controlled by them. The first fear is disappointing others. You have spent your life pursuing dreams that would make them proud. The thought of changing direction and disappointing them creates overwhelming anxiety. What will your parents think if you leave the career they sacrificed for you to achieve? What will your partner think if you want a completely different life than you have been building together? What will your peers think if you stop competing in the success game everyone is playing? This fear of disappointment keeps you trapped in a life you do not want because facing their disappointment feels unbearable. But here is the truth. You cannot live your entire life to avoid disappointing people who are not living your life. Their disappointment is their emotional experience to manage, not your burden to prevent through self-abandonment. They will adjust or they will not. But sacrificing your one life to maintain their comfort is too high a price. You are not responsible for their happiness or their opinion of your choices. You are responsible for living your actual life. The second fear is wasted investment. You have put years, money, effort into the path you are on. Education, career building, relationship investment, the life you constructed. Walking away feels like admitting all that was wasted. This sunk cost fallacy keeps people trapped long past when they realize they are on the wrong path. But past investment does not justify future investment in the wrong direction. The years you already spent cannot be recovered regardless of what you do next. The only question is what you do with the time you still have. Continuing on the wrong path because you already invested in it just wastes more time. Changing direction acknowledges past investment while refusing to waste the future. The third fear is discovering you are not good at your authentic dream. What if you pursue what you actually want and fail? What if your authentic dream is not realistic, practical, or achievable? What if you are better at the dream they gave you than the dream you choose? This fear keeps people in paths where they are competent but unfulfilled, rather than risking incompetence in pursuit of alignment. But competence at the wrong thing is still the wrong thing, and you do not know what you are capable of in authentic pursuit until you try. The fear of failure in your own dream keeps you succeeding at someone else's, which is its own kind of failure. The fourth fear is loneliness and rejection. If you change direction, some people will not understand. Some will judge. Some will withdraw. You fear losing relationships, community, belonging. This is a real risk. Some relationships are based on you being a certain way and pursuing certain things. When you change, these relationships might end. But relationships that require you to abandon yourself are not real relationships. They are transactions where your self-betrayal is the price of admission. Losing these creates space for relationships based on your authentic self. The temporary loneliness of transition is better than the permanent loneliness of never being truly known. The fifth fear is identity loss. Your entire sense of self might be wrapped up in the dream you are pursuing. The career professional, the high achiever, the good child, the responsible adult. Changing direction threatens this identity. Who are you if not the person pursuing this dream? This identity crisis feels destabilizing. But the identity you are protecting is false. It is based on a performed self, not your authentic self. Losing the false identity is necessary for discovering the true one. The discomfort of identity transition is the price of authenticity. The sixth fear is practical consequences. Money, security, stability. Changing direction often has real practical costs. Lower income, less security, more uncertainty. These practical fears are valid, but they are often exaggerated. You can pursue authentic dreams in ways that manage practical concerns. You do not have to blow up your entire life overnight. You can transition gradually, build financial cushion, make strategic moves. The fear makes it seem like you have only two options: stay in the wrong dream forever, or immediately abandon everything for your authentic one. But there are many options in between. The fear exaggerates the either-or to keep you paralyzed. The seventh fear is that your authentic dream will be judged as selfish, impractical, or naive. You internalized voices telling you to be realistic, practical, responsible. Your authentic dream might violate these dictates. It might seem selfish to others who benefited from your self-sacrifice. It might seem impractical compared to the stable path you are on. It might seem naive to pursue something you are genuinely passionate about rather than something that pays well. But these judgments are based on their values, not yours. Their opinion of what is practical or realistic is not more valid than your assessment of what would fulfill you. The eighth fear is that you are wrong. Maybe you are not actually living someone else's dream. Maybe you are just ungrateful, immature, or going through a phase. Maybe if you just tried harder to appreciate what you have, you would be happy with it. This self-doubt keeps you second-guessing your own experience. But the persistent feeling that something is wrong is not something to dismiss. Your discomfort is information. Trust it. Breaking through these fears requires acknowledging them without being controlled by them. You can feel the fear and move forward anyway. You can be afraid of disappointing others and still change direction. You can fear wasted investment and still cut your losses. You can fear failure and still try. Fear is not a stop sign. It is information about what matters to you. The presence of fear does not mean you should not do something. Often, it means you absolutely should, because on the other side of that fear is your actual life, the one you came here to live, the one that has been waiting for you to be brave enough to claim it. Chapter 6. Excavating your authentic dream. If you have been living someone else's dream for years or decades, reconnecting with your authentic dream requires deliberate excavation. Your actual desires are buried beneath layers of conditioning, expectation, and performance. This chapter provides a framework for discovering what you actually want beneath what you have been told to want. The first step is creating space away from external voices. You cannot hear your authentic desires while everyone is still telling you what you should want. Create time alone, away from the people whose opinions influence you, away from media and social comparison. In this quiet space, start asking yourself questions without immediately dismissing the answers that arise. What did I love before I learned what I was supposed to love? Think back to childhood before you understood that love had to be practical. What captured your attention effortlessly? What activities made you lose track of time? What subjects fascinated you before you learned some subjects were more valuable than others? These early interests contain clues to your authentic nature because they emerged before heavy conditioning set in. What do I fantasize about when I let myself dream without limits? Your daydreams are not random. They reveal your authentic desires trying to surface. What kind of life do you imagine when you are not policing your thoughts for practicality? What alternative realities do you escape into? What version of yourself shows up in your fantasy life? These fantasies are information about what you actually want, beneath what you think you should want. What would I pursue if money were not a factor? Money is one of the primary reasons people abandon authentic dreams. But imagining unlimited resources reveals what you would do if freed from financial constraint. This does not mean you can actually pursue something without considering money, but it reveals what matters to you, independent of compensation. You can then explore ways to pursue that while managing financial realities, rather than abandoning it entirely because it does not pay well immediately. What would I do if I knew I could not fail? Fear of failure keeps people from pursuing authentic dreams. But if failure were impossible, what would you attempt? What risks would you take? What paths would you explore? This reveals desires that fear has been suppressing. Once you know what you would do without fear, you can explore doing it despite fear rather than allowing fear to prevent ever trying. What makes me feel most alive? Pay attention to moments when you feel energized, engaged, fully present. What are you doing in these moments? These experiences point toward your authentic interests and strengths. Your authentic dream likely involves more of whatever makes you feel this way. Notice also what drains you, what makes time crawl, what requires enormous effort to maintain interest. Your authentic dream involves less of this. What am I doing when I am not thinking about anyone's opinion? When you are completely alone with no one to perform for, what do you gravitate toward? What do you choose to do? What interests you when there is no one to impress? These private choices reveal authentic preferences because they are not filtered through external approval. If I were writing my obituary, what would I want it to say? This morbid but clarifying exercise reveals what you actually value. When you imagine your life summarized after death, what matters? What do you want to have done, experienced, become, contributed? If your current path leads to an obituary that does not resonate, that is information. Your authentic dream involves living in a way that creates an obituary you would be proud of. What advice would I give to my younger self? Often, what you most need to hear is what you most need to say. The advice you would give your younger self often contains your authentic values and desires. If you would tell your younger self to be braver, to trust themselves, to pursue what they loved, you need to hear that advice yourself now. Apply to yourself the wisdom you offer others. What do I criticize or resent in others' lives? Sometimes, what you criticize reveals what you secretly want, but judge yourself for wanting. If you resent people who chose passion over security, you might secretly wish you had made that choice. If you criticize people who change paths midlife, you might want to do the same but are afraid. Your judgments and resentments contain shadow desires, the wants you have disowned, but that emerge as criticism of others who are living them. Explore through experimentation, not just contemplation. You cannot think your way to your authentic dream. You must experience your way there. Try things. Take classes in subjects that interest you. Volunteer in fields that intrigue you. Have conversations with people doing what you wonder about. Small experiments provide information that pure contemplation cannot. You do not need to know your entire authentic dream before you start. You just need to take one step toward discovering it, then another, then another. The path reveals itself through walking, not through perfect planning. Journal without censoring. Write stream of consciousness about what you want, how you feel about your current life, what you wish were different. Do not edit for practicality or correctness. Just let the thoughts flow onto the page. Patterns will emerge. Desires will surface. Clarity will develop over time through this practice of externalizing your internal experience. Work with a therapist or coach. Professional support can help you distinguish between your authentic desires and imported ones. They can ask questions you would not ask yourself, see patterns you cannot see from inside your experience, and provide accountability for the exploration process. This is complex work that is easier with guidance. Be patient with the excavation process. You have been living someone else's dream for years. Reconnecting with your own will not happen in a weekend workshop or a single moment of insight. This is gradual unfolding that requires sustained attention and curiosity. Trust that your authentic dream is there, beneath the layers, waiting to be discovered. It has been there your entire life. You are just finally creating space to hear it. Chapter 7. The courage to pursue your actual dream. Discovering your authentic dream is one thing. Having the courage to actually pursue it is another. This chapter addresses how to develop the courage required to change direction and start building a life based on your actual desires rather than others' expectations. Courage is not absence of fear. It is action despite fear. You will feel afraid as you change direction. Afraid of disappointing others. Afraid of failure. Afraid of the unknown. These fears are normal and do not mean you are on the wrong path. They mean you are doing something that matters, something real, something that challenges your conditioning. Courage means feeling the fear and moving forward anyway. Start by acknowledging what pursuing your authentic dream will cost. Honesty about costs prevents naive optimism that collapses at first difficulty. You might lose income, at least temporarily. You might lose relationships with people who cannot support your change. You might lose status or security. You might face judgment, confusion, or resistance from others. You might spend years rebuilding in a new direction. These costs are real, but continuing to live someone else's dream also has costs. You lose your authentic life, your potential, your satisfaction, your integrity. Both paths cost something. Choose the costs you are willing to pay. Build financial buffer before making dramatic changes if possible. Many people feel trapped by financial obligations. Having 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved creates breathing room for transition. This might mean staying in the wrong dream longer while you prepare, but preparing allows you to leave from choice rather than desperation. If building buffer is not possible, explore ways to transition gradually, keeping income while exploring authentic paths through side projects or part-time. Start with small steps rather than dramatic leaps. You do not have to quit your job tomorrow and move across the country to pursue your authentic dream. You can take small actions that move you in the right direction. Take a class. Start a side project. Have exploratory conversations. Make small shifts in how you spend your time and energy. These small steps build momentum and confidence while reducing risk. As you prove to yourself that you can handle change, larger steps become less terrifying. Find your people. Pursuing an authentic dream that diverges from others' expectations is lonely if you only have people who want you to stay on the approved path. Seek out communities of people who have made similar changes. Online groups, local meetups, professional networks in your area of interest. These people understand what you are going through because they have been through it. Their existence proves it is possible. Their support helps you persist when it gets difficult. Document your why. Write down why you are making this change. What is wrong with the current path? What will pursuing your authentic dream provide? What will you regret if you do not try? When you face difficulty, doubt, or pressure to return to the old path, this document reminds you why you started. It anchors you in your authentic motivation when external voices try to pull you back. Prepare responses to predictable resistance. You will face pushback. People will question your choices, express concern, or try to talk you out of it. Having responses prepared prevents you from being derailed in the moment. I appreciate your concern, and this is my decision. I understand this does not make sense to you, and it makes sense to me. I know this is different from what you expected, and it is what I need to do. These responses acknowledge their input without being swayed by it. Expect and tolerate discomfort. Changing direction is uncomfortable even when you are moving towards something better. You will feel uncertain, lost, afraid. You will question whether you made the right choice. You will miss aspects of the old path. This discomfort is not a sign you are wrong. It is a sign you are in transition. All growth involves discomfort. The discomfort of pursuing your authentic dream is different from the discomfort of living someone else's. One is growing pains. The other is soul death. Learn to distinguish between them. Celebrate small wins. When you take action toward your authentic dream, acknowledge yourself. Enrolled in the class. Had the difficult conversation. Took the first step. These actions require courage and deserve recognition. Celebrating progress builds momentum and reinforces that you can do hard things. You do not need to wait until you achieve the entire dream to celebrate. Each step toward it is worth acknowledging. Develop tolerance for others' disappointment. Some people will be disappointed when you change direction. Their disappointment is not a command you must obey by returning to their preferred path. You can feel compassion for their disappointment while maintaining your boundary. I understand you are disappointed, and this is my life to live. Their adjustment to your choices is their work, not your responsibility. You cannot live your life to prevent their negative emotions. Reframe failure as information. If you try something toward your authentic dream and it does not work, that is not evidence you should return to the old path. It is information about how to adjust. Thomas Edison did not interpret each failed attempt at the light bulb as a sign to stop trying. He interpreted it as information about what does not work, bringing him closer to what does. Apply this mindset to your own exploration. Each attempt that does not work out teaches you something valuable if you are willing to learn from it. Build a vision of your authentic life. What does life look like if you successfully pursue your authentic dream? Get specific. Where do you live? What do you do daily? Who is in your life? How do you spend your time? This vision provides direction and motivation. When the path gets difficult, the vision reminds you what you are working toward. Make the vision compelling enough to pull you through the fear and difficulty of transition. Remember that you are reclaiming your life, not throwing it away. The narrative others might use is that you are being irresponsible, throwing away everything you built, having a crisis. But you are not destroying your life. You are reclaiming it from a path that was never truly yours. You are becoming the author of your story rather than living according to someone else's script. This is not destruction. This is liberation. Frame it accordingly for yourself and others. The courage to pursue your authentic dream is not something you either have or do not have. It is something you develop through action. Each brave choice strengthens your courage for the next. Each time you choose your truth over others' expectations, you prove to yourself that you can. Over time, courage becomes less about forcing yourself and more about natural alignment with who you actually are. But it starts with one choice, one action, one step toward your actual dream. Make that choice. Take that action. Your authentic life is waiting for your courage to claim it. Chapter 8. Rebuilding identity around your authentic dream. When you stop pursuing someone else's dream and start pursuing your own, you face an identity crisis. Your entire sense of self has been built around the dream you are living. Changing dreams requires rebuilding identity. Understanding this process helps you navigate it rather than being destroyed by it. Your old identity was based on external definitions: the successful professional, the dutiful child, the high achiever, the responsible adult. These identities were constructed around meeting others' expectations and pursuing their dreams. They felt stable because they were externally validated. People praised you for being who they wanted you to be. But this stability was the stability of a prison, secure but suffocating. When you change direction, this identity is threatened. Who are you, if not the person pursuing the approved dream? What is your value, if not your achievement in the direction they wanted? These questions create profound discomfort. The old identity is crumbling, but the new one is not yet formed. You are in the liminal space between who you were and who you are becoming. This space is disorienting and necessary. The identity crisis is not a problem to solve quickly. It is a transition to move through slowly. Allow yourself to not know who you are for a while. Resist the temptation to grab a new identity quickly just to relieve the discomfort of uncertainty. You are discovering who you actually are, which takes time. Premature identity formation might just replicate the old pattern, adopting a new external identity rather than developing authentic internal one. Explore identity through your values rather than your roles. Your old identity was role-based: your job title, your achievements, your relationship status. These external markers determined who you thought you were, but authentic identity is values-based. What actually matters to you? What principles guide your choices? What do you stand for independent of what you do? Values remain relatively stable, even as circumstances change, providing more solid foundation for identity than roles that can be lost or changed. Your identity is also in your authentic qualities. Are you creative, curious, analytical, compassionate, bold, careful? These intrinsic characteristics exist regardless of what dream you are pursuing. You can be creative as a corporate executive or as an artist. You can be analytical in medicine or in writing. Your qualities are yours, not dependent on the path. Building identity on these intrinsic aspects rather than external achievements creates stability that survives life changes. Allow multiple aspects of identity. You are not just one thing. You can be many things. The person pursuing their authentic dream, the parent, the partner, the friend, the amateur enthusiast, the professional, the learner. Multiple identities can coexist without one having to be primary. This multifaceted identity is actually more resilient than singular identity because your entire sense of self does not collapse if one aspect changes. Recognize that identity evolution is ongoing. You are not finding your one true permanent identity. You are allowing your identity to evolve as you evolve. Who you are at 30 differs from who you are at 50. What you want at the beginning of your journey differs from what you want after years of growth. Identity is fluid, not fixed. Permission to evolve prevents the need to defend an outdated identity just because you previously claimed it. Grieve the old identity. Even though it was based on someone else's dream, it was how you understood yourself. Letting it go creates loss. You might grieve being the successful professional if you leave that career. You might grieve being the dutiful child if you stop living for parental approval. You might grieve being the high achiever if you choose fulfillment over achievement. This grief is valid. Allow it without letting it prevent forward movement. You can grieve who you were while becoming who you are. Stop seeking external validation for your new identity. Your old identity was externally validated. People approved of you for being who they wanted. Your new identity must be internally validated. You approve of yourself for being who you actually are. This shift from external to internal validation is crucial. If you still need others' approval to feel okay about your new identity, you have not actually changed the fundamental pattern. You have just changed which external source you seek approval from. True identity shift means your sense of self comes from internal alignment rather than external validation. Share your evolving identity selectively. Not everyone needs to know or understand your identity exploration. Share with people who can hold space for your uncertainty, who can support your growth, who will not try to pull you back to the old identity because it was more comfortable for them. Protect your emerging identity from people who will criticize, dismiss, or undermine it. You do not need everyone's understanding or approval. You need your own. Build evidence of your new identity through action. Identity is not just what you think or feel about yourself. It is who you are in action. If your authentic dream involves creativity, create. If it involves helping others, help. If it involves adventure, have adventures. Each action aligned with your authentic self reinforces the new identity. Over time, the accumulated actions create a new sense of self based on who you are actually being rather than who you think you should be. Expect others to resist your new identity. People knew you as the old version. They have expectations and a mental model of who you are based on your old identity. When you change, it disrupts their model. They might insist you are having a phase, a crisis, a mistake. They might reference the old you as the real you. This resistance is their discomfort with change, not evidence that your new identity is false. Hold your ground. You know yourself better than they know you. Their opinion of who you should be is not more valid than your experience of who you actually are. The identity that emerges from pursuing your authentic dream is more real than the identity built on someone else's. It might be less impressive to others. It might not fit neat categories. It might confuse people who want simple answers about who you are. But it is yours. An identity based on your authentic truth is worth more than any externally impressive but internally hollow identity built on others' dreams. The discomfort of identity transition is the price of authenticity. Pay it. The real you is worth it. Chapter 9. When your dream requires leaving everything. Sometimes pursuing your authentic dream requires leaving not just the career, but the entire life you built. The relationship, the location, the community, the version of yourself you have been. This level of change is terrifying and sometimes necessary. Understanding when this level of change is required and how to do it with integrity is essential. The first sign that comprehensive change might be needed is that every aspect of your current life was built around someone else's dream. Your career was their choice. Your location was their preference. Your relationship was their approval. Your entire life structure was constructed to serve a dream that was never yours. Adjusting one piece will not work because the entire system is built on the wrong foundation. Sometimes you need to deconstruct and rebuild from scratch. Another sign is that your authentic dream is incompatible with your current life structure. Maybe your dream requires geographic relocation and your partner will not move. Maybe your dream requires significant time and freedom, and your current obligations do not allow that. Maybe your dream involves a completely different lifestyle, and your current community cannot support it. When the life you have built fundamentally conflicts with the life you need to live, comprehensive change becomes necessary. A third sign is that staying in the current life creates such profound misalignment that your health, sanity, or soul are at serious risk. You are not just unfulfilled. You are being destroyed by the mismatch between who you are and the life you are living. At this point, staying is not an option. Leaving everything becomes survival. If you determine comprehensive change is necessary, approach it systematically rather than impulsively. Impulsive destruction creates unnecessary chaos and damage. Systematic deconstruction allows you to leave with more integrity and less regret. Start by being honest with yourself and others about what is happening. This is not working for me. I need to make significant changes. I am not sure what the outcome will be, but I know I cannot continue this way. This honesty might be painful, but it is more respectful than pretending everything is fine while secretly planning your exit. Address one domain at a time if possible. Maybe you start with career change while maintaining other aspects, or you change location while maintaining relationship. Sequential change is less overwhelming than simultaneous change across all domains. But sometimes, simultaneity is necessary because everything is so interconnected that changing one thing requires changing everything. Use judgment about what your situation requires. Grieve the life you are leaving. Even though it was built on someone else's dream, it was your life. You invested time, energy, love, effort, people and places and routines that mattered even if they ultimately were not right. Leaving creates real loss. Allow yourself to grieve without using grief as reason to stay in what does not work. You can be sad about leaving and still know leaving is necessary. Prepare practically for the transition. Leaving everything creates practical challenges. Where will you live? How will you support yourself? What will you do? These logistics must be addressed. Having a plan, even a rough one, makes comprehensive change more manageable. You do not need to have everything figured out, but you need enough structure that you are not immediately overwhelmed by practical crisis. Expect others to judge your choices harshly. Leaving a marriage, quitting a successful career, moving away from family, these are socially risky moves. People will have opinions. They will question your judgment, your sanity, your character. They will tell you that you are making a huge mistake. This judgment is their discomfort with your courage to do what they are too afraid to do. Do not let their judgment prevent you from choosing yourself. Find support from people who understand. Leaving everything is lonely. Most people in your life are invested in you staying the same. Find communities of people who have made similar moves. Online groups, support networks, therapy. These connections remind you that you are not crazy, not alone, and that comprehensive change is survivable. Give yourself time to rebuild. You will not immediately have a better life after leaving. You will have uncertainty, instability, loneliness, confusion. The better life comes later, after you have rebuilt on a foundation that is actually yours. Be patient with the rebuilding process. You are creating something real for the first time. That takes time. Know that some people will never understand or forgive your choice. Your parents might never accept that you left the path they envisioned. Your ex-partner might never forgive you for leaving. Your old community might always see you as the person who abandoned them. This is painful, but sometimes inevitable. You cannot control their response. You can only control whether you live your authentic life or sacrifice it to maintain their approval. Remember that you can create a different life, but you cannot create different circumstances for that life. If you leave everything to pursue your authentic dream, you still face challenges, setbacks, difficulties. The difference is that you are facing them in pursuit of something that is actually yours, rather than in service of something that never was. The difficulties feel different, worth enduring rather than soul-crushing. Leaving everything is not giving up or running away. It is reclaiming your life from a path that was fundamentally wrong for you. It is choosing integrity over convenience. It is prioritizing your soul over others' comfort. It is the most courageous thing you can do. Not everyone will need to leave everything. Some people can course correct within their current life structure. But if you are one of the people who needs to leave everything to live authentically, know that it is possible. People do it. They survive. They rebuild. They create lives that are actually theirs. You can be one of them. The life you came here to live is waiting. Sometimes you have to let go of everything to claim it. Chapter 10. Living your dream in the real world. Having the courage to pursue your authentic dream is one thing. Actually living it day to day in the real world with all its constraints and complications is another. This chapter addresses how to practically pursue your authentic dream without requiring perfect conditions or complete freedom from obligations. Start by accepting that you cannot control all circumstances. You might have financial obligations, dependents, health limitations, geographic constraints. These realities must be worked within. But working within constraints is not the same as abandoning your dream entirely. The question is not how can I pursue my dream with no limitations, which is usually impossible. The question is what version of my dream is possible within my actual constraints. Break your dream into components. Maybe your authentic dream involves multiple elements. Identify which elements are most essential versus which are flexible. Maybe location matters more than specific career. Maybe creative expression matters more than financial success. Maybe freedom matters more than security. Understanding what is core versus peripheral helps you make trade-offs that honor what matters most rather than abandoning the entire dream, because you cannot have every aspect immediately. Explore multiple pathways to the same core desire. Maybe your dream is to help people. That can be done through medicine, therapy, coaching, teaching, writing, volunteering, countless pathways. If one pathway is blocked by practical constraints, explore others. Your authentic dream usually has a core essence that can be expressed through various forms. Do not get so fixated on one form that you miss other valid expressions. Build gradually rather than dramatically. You might not be able to immediately leave your career and pursue your authentic dream full-time. But can you pursue it part-time? As a side project? Through classes or volunteering? Small, consistent actions toward your authentic dream create momentum and provide information about whether this path actually suits you. Over time, these small actions can grow into primary focus as you build capacity, resources, and clarity. Create financial runway if your dream requires career change. Living your authentic dream often requires accepting less income, at least temporarily. If this is your situation, Build savings that allow you to transition without immediate financial crisis. Even 3 to 6 months of living expenses creates breathing room. A year creates real freedom. This might mean staying in the wrong path longer while you prepare, but preparation makes successful transition more likely. Integrate your authentic dream into your current life where possible. Maybe you cannot quit your job immediately, but you can bring more of your authentic interests and values into how you do your job. Maybe you cannot move to your ideal location, but you can incorporate elements of that lifestyle into where you are. Find ways to express your authentic self within current constraints while working toward greater freedom. Be honest about what you are willing to sacrifice. Living your authentic dream might require sacrifices. Lower income, less security, more uncertainty, harder work. Are you willing to make these sacrifices? If yes, make them consciously rather than resenting them. If no, adjust your dream to fit what you are actually willing to do, rather than fantasizing about a dream you are not willing to pursue fully. Address the practical logistics systematically. How will you support yourself? Where will you live? What resources do you need? What skills must you develop? What connections must you build? These practical questions have answers, but you must be willing to do the work of figuring them out. Authentic dreams still require practical planning. The planning looks different from planning someone else's dream because you are creating your own path rather than following an established one. But planning is still necessary. Find or create community around your authentic pursuit. You need people who understand what you are doing, who share similar values, who can support your journey. These might not be the people currently in your life. You might need to seek out new communities, online or in person, of people pursuing similar dreams. Community makes difficult things more bearable and provides practical support and encouragement. Measure success by your own metrics. You will be tempted to measure your progress against others pursuing more traditional paths. Do not. Your authentic dream might not produce impressive external markers quickly. You might earn less, have less status, or confuse people with your choices. But if you are living with greater alignment, authenticity, and fulfillment, you are succeeding by the metrics that actually matter. Define your success metrics based on internal states, alignment with values, growth, satisfaction, rather than just external achievements. Adjust your dream as you learn more about yourself. Your authentic dream is not fixed forever. As you pursue it, you will discover nuances. Some aspects will be more important than you thought. Others will be less important. You will find unexpected interests or lose interest in what you thought mattered. Let your dream evolve with your self-knowledge. You are not locked into your first vision. You are discovering through action what actually resonates. Be patient with the timeline. Living your authentic dream is a long game. You will not transform your entire life in weeks or months. It takes years to build a life that genuinely reflects your authentic self. This slow pace is frustrating, but necessary. Trust the process. Each choice, aligned with your authentic self, compounds over time into comprehensive transformation. But you must persist through the years where change feels slow or imperceptible. Celebrate progress rather than only acknowledging the gap. You will always see the distance between where you are and where you want to be. But do not forget to notice how far you have come from where you were. Each step toward your authentic dream deserves acknowledgement. You are doing something most people never attempt. You are building your own path rather than following the well-worn trail. This is difficult, important work. Acknowledge yourself for doing it. Remember that living your dream in the real world means accepting imperfection. Your life will not be Instagram perfect. It will have struggles, setbacks, compromises, difficulties. But these challenges feel different when you are pursuing your authentic path. They feel like worthy struggles rather than pointless suffering. You are willing to endure difficulty when the difficulty is in service of something that actually matters to you. Perfect lives do not exist, but authentic lives do. Choose authenticity over perfection. Your real dream in the real world is better than someone else's perfect dream in theory. Chapter 11. Your authentic life is waiting. You have now explored every dimension of how you ended up living someone else's dream and how to reclaim your own. The final piece is understanding that your authentic life is not somewhere distant and impossible. It is a series of choices starting now. You do not need perfect conditions to begin. You do not need complete clarity about your entire dream. You do not need everyone's understanding or approval. You just need to make one choice aligned with your authentic self. Then another, then another. Each choice compounds. Small daily decisions to honor your authentic desires rather than others' expectations add up to comprehensive life transformation over time. Your authentic life is waiting in the career that uses your genuine strengths and interests rather than the one that impressed others, in the location that feels like home rather than the one that made practical sense, in the relationships based on your real self rather than your performed self, in the daily activities that energize you rather than drain you, in the goals that align with your values rather than others' expectations, in the version of yourself that is real rather than constructed. The life you came here to live has been waiting your entire life for you to be brave enough to choose it. It waited while you built someone else's dream. It waited while you performed for approval. It waited while you achieved what they wanted. It is still waiting, but it will not wait forever. Time passes whether you live authentically or not. The question is what you do with the time you still have. You can spend the rest of your life continuing to build on the foundation of someone else's dream, going higher and higher in a direction that was never yours, achieving more and more of what you never actually wanted, becoming more and more successful at being someone you are not. This is a path of increasing emptiness despite increasing achievement. The higher you climb on the wrong ladder, the further you get from where you actually want to be. Or you can acknowledge that you have been living someone else's dream, grieve the time already spent, and start building your actual dream with the time you have left. This path is scarier. It requires disappointing people, changing direction, starting over in some ways, tolerating uncertainty, facing judgment. But this path leads toward fulfillment because you are finally building something that is actually yours. The choice is yours. No one can make it for you. Not your parents, not your partner, not your friends, not society. You are the only one who can decide whether to continue living someone else's dream or to finally start living your own. And you must decide knowing that both choices have consequences. Continuing on the current path guarantees continued emptiness. Changing direction guarantees difficulty and uncertainty. Neither path is easy. One path is empty. The other is authentic. Choose consciously. If you choose to pursue your authentic dream, understand that it will be difficult. You will face resistance. You will doubt yourself. You will want to quit. You will be tempted to return to the safety of the known path. These difficulties are not signs you chose wrong. They are signs you are doing something real, something that matters, something that challenges everything you were taught about how to live. Persist through the difficulties. They are temporary. The authenticity you build is permanent. You were not born to live someone else's dream. You were born with your own purpose, your own path, your own unique way of contributing to the world. That purpose has been waiting for you to remember it. That path has been waiting for you to walk it. That contribution has been waiting for you to make it. The world needs what you came here to offer, but you can only offer it if you stop trying to be who everyone else wanted you to be and start being who you actually are. Your parents had their dreams. Your culture had its dreams. Your peers had their dreams. They lived or are living those dreams. That is their journey. Your journey is to live your dream, not theirs, not a modified version of theirs that is slightly more tolerable. Your actual dream. The one that is yours and only yours. The one that might not make sense to anyone else, but resonates in your soul. That dream is your birthright, and reclaiming it is your responsibility. The life you were born to live is not the one they handed you. It is the one you discover beneath their expectations. The one you excavate from under their conditioning. The one you build despite their judgment. The one you live even though it disappoints them. That life is waiting. Your authentic dream is waiting. Your real self is waiting. The only question is whether you have the courage to finally live the life you came here to live rather than the one they told you to live. Start today. Start now. Make one choice aligned with your authentic dream. Not someday when conditions are perfect. Not after you have permission from everyone. Not when you have complete clarity. Now. With imperfect conditions, without permission, without complete clarity. Choose yourself. Choose your dream. Choose your actual life. The one you came here to live. The one that has been waiting for you to be brave enough to claim it. You were not born to live someone else's dream. You were born to live yours. It is time. Your life is waiting. Go live it.